Cool.
Okay. Here we go.
Hi, I'm Patricia. Welcome to the 10th episode of A Breath of Song. I am so glad you chose to do this extra special day because Samara Jade is joining us for a songwriter conversation. Pete Seeger said, "The easiest way to avoid wrong notes is to never open your mouth and sing. What a mistake that would be." And that is a mistake we are not making here. We are here to find wellness one song at a time, and trust me, your voice is just perfect for this. I'm coming to you straight from my home in Vermont with my cat right beside me on the piano bench, purring, and Samara is joining from Port Townsend, Washington.
Hi, Patricia.
Samara,
Hello
welcome.
from across the country.
Yeah. All of our voices will turn up as they are today, creaky, smooth, on pitch, or wandery. No matter what, we can feel the connection to our breath and vibration in our body. Let's find how good it can feel to sing. So last week, I shared Samara's song, Right Place, Right Time, which is one of my all-time favorites. Today, Samara will be teaching us another song of hers called I Trust My Roots. We'll sing it several times so it can settle inside you and you can begin to trust it as a resource. Let it move you into a state of flow. Then we get to enjoy a conversation with Samara, and we'll close out with the song again at the end. Let's start. And Samara, you can just do this with me with a good yawn stretch. I know you're warmed up. You've been recording already today, but...
Well, I haven't been the one singing, so
Oh,
it's good, actually.
So roll your shoulders a bit, maybe stretch your back, opening space in your body to let your instrument sound, whatever feels good to you. And noticing your breath and letting it soften your jaw and your mouth and your tongue. How about some hum sighs? Sliding up and down. Yeah. Samara, I'll turn it over to you to share the song.
All right. Just go right on into playing it.
Absolutely.
All right. Here's I Trust My Roots. I trust my roots to know where to go, to know where to go, to know where to go. I trust my roots to know where to go, down, down into the earth. I trust my roots to anchor me deep, to anchor me deep, to anchor me deep. I trust my roots to anchor me deep, down, down into the earth. Going down, down into the earth, intertwining with all beings I'm seeing in every direction. Going down, down into the earth, I'll send a message on the world wide web of interconnection. 'Cause I trust my roots to reach what I need, to reach what I need, to reach what I need. I trust my roots to reach what I need, down, down into the earth. And I trust my roots to share what I got, to share what I got, to share what I got. I trust my roots to share what I got, down, down into the earth. Going down, down into the earth, intertwining with all beings I'm seeing in every direction. Going down, down into the earth, I'll send a message on the world wide web of interconnection. Oh, 'cause I trust my roots to lead me to love, to lead me to love, to lead me to love. I trust my roots to lead me to love, down, down into the earth. And I trust our roots to connect us as one, connect us as one, connect us as one. I trust my roots to connect us as one. Down, down into the earth, going down, down into the earth, intertwining with all beings. I'm seeing in every direction, going down, down into the earth. I'll send a message on the world wide web of interconnection. You know I'm gonna trust my roots.
Yeah. Would you be willing to take apart the chorus and teach it to us a little bit, because the words are a little more complex there, and give us a chance to, to learn it just a little bit at a time?
Absolutely, yeah. It's kind of a longer sing-along song. It's not quite one of the little nugget songs, pocket songs.
Yeah, but it's fabulous. And that's one of the goals of this podcast is to learn those songs.
Great, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, as you caught on to, the verses are pretty straightforward. And I actually like to think of this as a zipper song. Those are just the verses that I happen to sing and time again. But, I've made up like probably a dozen more. I trust my roots to do whatever you want, fill in the blank. So I invite folks who want to learn and carry this song to just make their own verses. Those are just my like example verses. But yeah, I'll break down the chorus, like a call and response sort of a thing. You're thinking?
Yeah,
So
that'd be great.
Down, down, I'll speak the words. Down, down into the earth, intertwining with all beings I'm seeing in every direction. Down, down into the earth, I'll send a message on the World Wide Web of interconnection. So,
seems very appropriate for this call.
Yes, right? We are the internet, as I often like to say, is kind of the like technological equivalent of mycelium, sending messages across the globe, information and data.
Yes.
So, down, down into the earth. So, down, down into the earth, intertwining with all beings I'm seeing in every direction. Intertwining with all beings I'm seeing in every direction. Going down, down into the earth. Going down, down into the earth. I'll send a message on the World Wide Web of interconnection. I'll send a message on the World Wide Web of interconnection. Now I'll sing longer phrases, call and response it. Going down, down into the earth, intertwining with all beings I'm seeing in every direction. Down, down into the earth, intertwining with all beings I'm seeing in every direction. Going down, down into the earth, I'll send a message on the World Wide Web of interconnection. Down, down into the earth, I'll send a message on the World Wide Web of interconnection. How's that for breaking it down? No, it's still
That's
there's
fabulous.
Still mouthfuls, as I
They
tend to do.
are mouthfuls, but it's so much fun to say it. It feels so chewy in your
Yes,
mouth.
that's the goal. I love making chewy phrases that are like kind of tongue twisters, but also once you get them, they just kind of roll around fluidly.
So what if we did the song again, maybe just, 3 or 4 verses?
Sure thing.
However many feel right to you.
Yeah, let's do that. So I trust my roots to know where to go. We'll start there. I trust my roots to know where to go, to know where to go, to know where to go. I trust my roots to know where to go. Down, down into the earth, anchor me deep. I trust my roots to anchor me deep, to anchor me deep, to anchor me deep. I trust my roots to anchor me deep. Down, down into the earth. Here's the chorus, so down, down. Down, down into the earth, intertwining with all beings I'm seeing in every direction. Going down, down into the earth, I'll send a message on the World Wide Web of interconnection. Now we're gonna, let's see, what are we trusting our roots to do? I trust my roots to lead me to love. I trust my roots to lead me to love, to lead me to love, to lead me to love. I trust my roots to lead me to love. Down, down into the earth, and I trust our roots to connect us as one. I trust our roots to connect us as one. Connect us as one. Connect us as one. I trust our roots to connect us as one. Down, down into the earth. Going down, down into the earth. Intertwining with our beings, I'm seeing in every direction. Going down, down into the earth. I'll send a message on the World Wide Web of interconnection. Yeah.
Thanks so much for bringing this song to us. I love the way I feel. I feel both relaxed and confident after I sing that song. Like I've let go, like I'm not worrying anymore.
Oh, that's great to hear.
That's such a good feeling.
Yeah, that's definitely something I struggle a lot with, is anxiety and worry, and it just it feels like such a old and profoundly dug deep habit in me. So I feel like that's kind of a theme of a lot of my songs, is like mantras to help me trust and relax and surrender. So that's great to hear that it has that effect on somebody else. That's wonderful.
It does. And I use songs the same way. I mean, that's, for me, they are such a mental health gift. Such a way to take my frontal lobe out of the worrying, fretting mode and into a different place. Sort of shift.
Absolutely. Yeah, this one been such a lifelong journey, but I'd say especially the last few years of trying to learn how to better trust my intuition and tracing in my body where does intuition live. I think a lot of people think of it as like a cosmic thing that's like outside of yourself, you know, like it's this woo thing of like psychic energy. And I've realized in the last handful of years that I think for me, and probably a lot of people, intuition lives in the body, and specifically it lives in the gut. You know, that's why we say our gut feelings. And another hobby and passion of mine is fermentation. And I only made the connection really a few years ago of like intuition and fermentation being so much about rebuilding or maintaining a healthy microbiome in your gut. And if you think about it, it's like, that's kind of like our roots, in that there's like, we have all these helpers, like these mycelial agents and bacteria and yeast and all the little microbes that live in our guts are kind of like our connector to the world outside of us, in a sense. And eating fermented foods obviously helps that, help build that culture. And I believe that can help with intuition too. I don't know. It's a strange connection in my head, but it makes sense. Oh yeah, if I can heal my gut and have a healthy gut, then like I can learn to trust my gut better. And it's not just me, it's my microbes too. So that's part of it. It's
all of that, the whole system that's behind supporting you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I think of intuition as an embodied thing, and I'm really trying to step into that. So that's a theme that's been coming to me a lot in song and in everything. It's just been interwoven with everything I try to do. It's like, nope, trust your body. Trust your gut.
Trust your body. That's beautiful.
And you have to be in your body to sing. And that's been a whole other lesson and thing that I've been trying to deepen into. So the songs help you get into your body, because it's hard to sing if you're not in your body and in your breath. So
yeah. Although I have to say, I did it for years, and it didn't sound very good, but I did it for years.
Me too, and it damaged my voice. Yeah, literally.
Yeah. So tell us what the first sound is that you make when you get up in the morning.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I very adamantly don't like to talk to people in the morning, and it's not because I'm like I need my coffee. I like coffee, but it has nothing to do with that. It's more out of a like, I actually really need to warm up my voice before I can talk, because so I try to be really gentle with my voice in the water, and chug chug a quart or so of warm water, ideally warm lemon water, just before I even do anything. And that really kind of helps clear some gunk that's settled in there from overnight. And then the first sound I like to start with is just some really gentle humming, like low. And I learned as I was going through speech therapy and over the last year, after dealing with a vocal cord injury, my speech therapist taught me that if you're blowing your lips out, like you can see me, but I guess folks listening to the podcast can't, but what I'm doing is kind of blowing my cheeks out. If you do like a sort of thing, it brings you there, but you don't have to do full-on mouth trumpet to get there. You can also just do, and I'm puffing my cheeks out and vibrating my lips. And basically, if you're doing that, it's almost impossible to have a tight throat while you're doing that. So it's a really good way to start singing. So I've really taken to that as a practice of just humming in the morning and doing some slurs with that, like really gentle stuff. So if anybody is around me, they're like usually a little weirded out, but the folks who know me know what I'm doing, so it's cool.
I often will take my choruses through, especially if there's a section that we've been having trouble with, through flubbering. I call it flubbering.
Oh,
Flubbering. They may have to rethink this after COVID, but we would sing the line doing that to release the tension and sort of reestablish the balance of air and how that works.
It's so profound. It's really been changing me and just teaching me like, oh, I've been singing wrong all these years. Not wrong, but that's like probably why I ended up with a vocal cord injury, was really from not being attuned to using my voice in this way. So it's been really eye-opening for me, learning more about the voice and its connection with breath and body, embodied singing. So that's a big journey. I'm very much feeling like I'm taking baby steps on right now.
I'm just thinking how scary that would be, to be a singer-songwriter, right? That's how you make your living. And then lose your voice, this instrument that you've relied on.
Yeah, it was horrible. I'm not gonna lie. It was actually also a blessing in so many ways. The timing of it all, it was funny. It happened during COVID, so it's not like I was gigging anyways. And like it happened after I finished recording the last album that I recorded, like a couple months after that was all done. So I was like glad to have had that done and not have that happen in the middle of it.
It's a fabulous album. Just
Thank
saying.
you. Thank you so much. So it was good timing. In a sense, it's like the best, worst situation that could have happened. It started last summer and seemingly out of nothing. Like I didn't even like shout or sing excessively. I wasn't gigging excessively like I have in the past, where I've, had many gigs a week, and like times in my life where like it would have made more sense that my voice would give out. But it happened in like the middle of a non-gigging period. I think maybe my body just knew it was like, it's like how you get sick after like finals week or whatever in college. It's the same thing. And I'd spent a few months last summer not being able to sing at all. There were weeks where I couldn't even talk really, like other than whisper or just like a very low, quiet. And it was really scary. And I started going to a ear, nose, throat doctor and getting it scoped out. And they could see it's just a little dot on my vocal cords, a lesion, they called it. And basically they told me there's nothing I could do other than surgery to get it removed. And I haven't done that yet, but that I could relearn how to sing with it. And so that's why I was seeing a speech therapist and just have been on this whole journey of learning how to more healthfully use my voice, not only for singing, but actually speaking is where I think I tend to do the most damage. And this tend to happen a lot in pre-COVID times, like in noisy parties or bars or gatherings where I'm having to talk over. Lots of ambient noise was always a really hard thing for me to do. So I think I was just kind of cumulatively damaging my voice. So anywho, when this was all happening, it was, it's definitely caused me a lot of grief and anxiety and stress over this last year. And it continues to go through waves of being lost and found again. Like basically it gets re-injured every time I have like a coughing fit or something. Who knew coughing was so damaging? For instance, a few weeks ago, I choked on a bug and I coughed it and was coughing and my voice was gone completely again. I was like, no, this is horrible. So, but I think it's bouncing back a little bit more quickly this time just because of what I've learned. But I will say the benefits or the silver linings, other than like the big one being really teaching me that I need to sing in a better way and a more embodied way. But another really amazing silver lining of that was that I was just playing a whole lot more instrumental music, and the mandola has become a big musical instrument love of mine over the last year or few months, and been learning the viola also, and always trying to get better at guitar too. So I feel like I've learned to sing through my instruments a lot, especially in the periods where I wasn't able to sing. So I'm grateful for that.
So I have a friend who said to me, "Oh, you're interviewing Samara." I was saying, "I get to interview Samara Jade. I'm so happy about that." He said, "Samara Jade, I knew her when she was in North Carolina at the Swannanoa. Thank you."
Oh, yeah, Swannanoa
and he told me a story.
That must have been a ways back.
It was a ways back.
I'm curious who that is.
He told me a story about you playing, about there being a Beatles sing-along night, and you coming in and playing sitar on Norwegian wood.
That was a thing that happened every year.
And he said the whole room would have been sort of raucous and doing this sing-along, and then you would come in the center, and all 200 people, however many people were there, would get really quiet because it was unamplified and just focus in. And he said it was some of the most magical moments were listening to you play, and how your focus and your ability to sort of sing through your instrument really brought people to a different place.
Wow, that's so wild that that story has come to you. That feels like such a corner of my life that not a whole lot of people know, because it's been a long time since I've been to the Swannanoa gathering. But that was a thing that happened every year. They have Beatles Scream, they called it. It's like an all-night Beatles sing-along. It was so much fun, and raucous, a hootenanny of a time, going through like the whole, you can't, it's like tip of the iceberg with the Beatles repertoire, but, singing like 100 Beatles songs. And the first time I brought my sitar, everybody freaked out. It's funny because I don't even really play sitar. Like, I have a sitar. I haven't studied Indian classical music, so I don't by any means consider myself a sitar player. But, I'm nimble enough on it that I could figure out Norwegian wood. So.
That's great. So going even further back, what is the first earliest song memory that you have? I'm curious.
Gosh, that's a great question. And I know. I loved the song Moonshadow by Cat Stevens when I was really little. And this is like maybe even one of my earliest memories, but as like a 3 or 4 year old, my aunt would play a recording on a cassette tape of Moonshadow, and I just loved that song, Moonshadow. And I would sing it all the time. So that was my very favorite song as probably 3 to 5 year old.
Wow. So
that's probably my first musical memory. So Cat Stevens has got a place in my heart for sure.
That's a lovely song. It's a beautiful song. When did you know that you wanted to do music? How did that evolve in your life?
It's gone through many different phases and stages. I'd say probably the earliest hint of that was in second grade or third grade or something. At that point, I guess I had been taking piano lessons for a year. And in school, we I don't know, how how PC this is now, of course, just with the climate of everything. But in our Native American unit, we had to all choose Native American names, what would our name be? And I chose Music Maker. Yeah. So I guess something in me knew back then. But I don't know. It wasn't until I was a teenager that I actually was playing music's really fun. I love playing music. And that was because I had taken classical piano lessons as a kid, but never really was that into it. But when I was older and got some piano books, sheet music of music I liked. I'm like, oh, this is really fun. And my biggest early musical influence that really got me going on that train, as probably like a 12-year-old or something, I got really into like embarrassingly obsessively into the Broadway musical Rent. And I still love it. This music has such a deep place in my soul. I was actually recently, just the other day, singing Seasons of Love, and I'm like, that's still one of the best songs of all times. Thank you, Jonathan Larson. And yeah, but I just became obsessed with that. Like all throughout my teenage years, that was like all I ever wanted to do was listen to Rent and play Rent and make reenactments in my parents' basement with my friends of the musical Rent. So that was a huge turning point when I like realized, oh wow, like just the power of this songwriter and how these songs are so alive in me even after the person who composed them, Jonathan Larson, tragically passed away, and yet his songs are like still very much alive, and they live on in such a powerful way. And I think I really just felt the emotion of that and the power of that impacted me a lot as a young person.
That's interesting, because the songs that you write that I've heard do that. They communicate. They really reach out and pull in both directions. They send energy both directions. So that both I feel like I know you a little better after I've listened to them, but I also feel like I know myself a little better.
Ooh.
I think that's a generous gift as a songwriter that you give. So there are so many directions I could go at this point, but I'm curious. I'm really curious because you said that you chose the name Music Maker, that chance to draw on the indigenous wisdom of your name meaning something. I'm really curious about that because you have changed your name, right?
Yeah.
Because when I first started searching for you on YouTube, it was a twisty, windy path to find your music because your music was available under several different names. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, it's been a journey. Yeah, I was Sierra before I was Samara, and I had another name before that, like my birth name, but I haven't gone by my birth name since I was a kid. Never was resonant with me. But Sierra was always, I don't know, it felt like a placeholder name. I was like, all right, well, this is better than my birth name, but it's still not my name. And I always kind of knew that. But it was fine. It was my name for many, many years. And I came across the word Samara first when I was studying botany in college. And a samara is a kind of seed that many trees have, such as maple trees, most notably. Elm trees have them too, and there's more. But if you picture those little helicopter seeds that go spiraling upon the wind, that is a samara, which botanically speaking is a winged nut. And I always just thought it was a beautiful name, and kind of always had it dog-eared in my mind of like, oh, if I ever have kids, like I want to name my daughter Samara. And like I'm like pretty sure I don't ever want to have kids. I'm pretty sure that's just not my karma and not my path in this life, like not totally closed off to it, but it hit me one day. This was about 4 or 5 years ago. I was on a canoe in Florida on a spring with a couple friends, and there were the samaras were falling everywhere, the red maple samaras. And I was like, what if that was my name? And the moment I said it, and like I said it out loud, I, like, hey, do you want to try calling me Samara? And it just like, it landed deep in my soul. Like, oh, obviously that's my name. And
wow.
And everybody started calling me that, or the people I was with on that trip, it just kind of became my trip name. And it was just like, oh, it feels so good to be called Samara. Like, I love the sound of it, and I love the meaning of it. It's a seed, and I feel like songs are like seeds. Like, they're, genetically encoded DNA to create this whole tree.
A nut. It's a little wild, too.
I'm a nut. I'm a winged nut. I mean, what better name? And, I'm a very airy, I tend to be a little bit nomadic and can't sit still somewhat, so it suits me really well. And it was still a hard decision to change my name because of all the practical reasons of like, oh, I already have 2 albums out as Sierra, and I was about to release my third album at the time, Wave of Birdsong. And so I was like, ooh, part of that decision was like, I need to decide this before I release this album. And how do I want to come out to the world? Because this is like, it was my third album, but it was kind of my first like real and big album. So I was like, this needs to come out as Samara Jade. It was another really big lesson about trusting my embodied intuition, because everything in my brain and logic and, was just like, no, don't change your name. That's going to be a pain in the butt. But everything in my soul and my body was like, obviously you're Samara. And I went through this whole indecisive process, as I am wont to do, for many months. Like, sought out every sort of like external, reflection, like probably did like an intuitive reading, did tarot cards, did like dream incubation, like everything I could like possibly think of, and like asking all the opinions of everybody. And then one day I was like, you know what? I need to just decide this from inside. And I was in one of my favorite places in North Carolina, and went to sit out on a rock in the river. And I was just like, all right, it's very adamantly like, I'm closing my eyes until I make a decision from within. So I did. And it didn't take long. I was like, I closed my eyes. I'm like, you're Samara. And, after a few minutes, I like opened my eyes, and I kid you not, like, as, talk about signs from the universe, which is what I'd been asking for all along. As I am opening my eyes, a little baby Samara, maple tree Samara, flutters down and lands right in my lap, or like right in front of me. And I'm like, stop it. Stop. It's too much.
If you weren't listening before, please listen now. It's like the universe is there.
But it was confirming. Yeah. It was like confirming that trust of my gut, and trust of my intuition, and trust of my roots. It's like, oh, my roots are the things that hold these mycelial connection to the trees around me, to the world around me, and I can learn to lean into that and trust that wisdom more. Yeah. So that everything in my life keeps pointing back to that. And I love that my name change story it felt like it was moving me towards embodying that more. So that's been a big part of my journey for the last handful of years.
Yeah, that's beautiful to have your name really reflect who you are and feel that connection. Every time somebody says your name, everybody says.
Absolutely, yeah. It's like a mantra, or a reminder of who you are.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Can you tell us a little more about how else you've found, what other ways you've found are really effective to connect with that, to build that trust with yourself, to build that trust with your gut?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm still learning so much every day. I am really into two practices that I do that I've devoted a lot over the years to are dream work and tarot cards as a means of self-reflection and shadow work, and just like seeing into the subconscious, and tracking the images that come up around me, whether they're in dreams and tarot cards or anything else, just kind of like seeing the world as this living divination, tracking motifs and images and patterns. And a lot of times, you don't start to notice things until it starts to become a pattern. For instance, the last year or so, I've like accounted in my dream journal at one point, and I think I had like 30 something of these dreams of being in like big waves in the ocean. Like each dream was a little bit different, but it was still a common enough dream that it was a motif and reoccurring dream. And so I've just been really tracking that a lot. And the more I do, the more I like notice it, and the more I start to like tie it in with other things, and then the more that just like metaphor comes alive, and learning to just like trust those patterns and trust the things that show up and repeat as some way of my subconscious is like trying to get my attention for something that needs connecting. I found that dreams have been really helpful with that, and making a practice of writing down dreams, as well as like using tarot cards as a mirror also for working with just different archetypal energies and moments and intentions, and not, I think a common misconception with tarot or any sort of divination is like, oh, it's foretelling the future, and I don't see it like that. It's for like reflecting the present more than anything. the thing I love about the tarot deck. It's like this perfect embodiment of the human experience, like the universal experience throughout all the cards in the deck. It just so perfectly captures just different archetypes of that we all experience at some point in our lives, of being alive and being human. I feel like a lot of my music springs up from all of that work combined, in a sense. That's where a lot of the images and motifs come from. So I don't know if I drifted from your original question, but...
No, in a wonderful way. It was a good path to follow.
Good. Cool.
I'm just thinking that one of the things that I've done a lot of imagery work, and one of the things that a wise woman said to me at one point, I just remember doing this image, and I'll probably take this out of the interview. I remember doing this image work where I was facing something that was very difficult for me, a memory that was a traumatic memory for me. And she said, so I want you to observe what you're wearing, and I was wearing this Wonder Woman outfit. You know, it's the whole the thing across the forehead, and the wristbands, and the belt, and the whole 9 yards. And I was like, really? A Wonder Woman outfit? I don't think so. And she was like, Patricia, you do not turn down an image that your subconscious offers you. You go with it. And that whole thing, that was a huge learning change shift for me, because I realized I had this big part of me that was always looking at the images that came up and saying, is it good enough? Is it original enough? Is it okay? You know, I had this part of me that was vetting everything that came up. And that did not turn out to be actually very helpful.
Oof. That is so, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, that's so familiar and resonant. And that's been like one of the biggest things for me, is like learning to move past those self-denying and self-doubtful voices that are like, oh, I'm just making that up, it's not real. And like, actually, that's really potent, and that's the medicine you need.
Yeah.
But those voices are so real, and they're so deeply conditioned in us, like, to not trust your imagination. So that's been a big healing journey for me, is like, actually, no, it is okay
to trust
yourself.
To trust this. So another thing that I am curious about is, I know you've chosen some unusual ways of living, unusual to standard American norms, I guess is what I would say. Just
it's normal for me.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I'm wondering if you would talk to it about it a little bit. What gives you a sense of home? Because I'm thinking, you know, whether you're living in a van or in a community or alone or with families, you know, people can feel lonely in all kinds of places, whatever their living situation is. And people can feel at home in many different situations, different places. And I'm wondering, what gives you that sense of home?
That's such a good question, and so relevant for me, as for so many reasons right at this very moment in my life, as a little bit of a vagabond. I wouldn't really say vagabond. I do live in my van. I have been living in my van mostly for the last 3 years.
Would you tell us what you call your van?
Vincent Van Gogh.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's pretty great, but which was like my childhood dream or my teenage dream. Like, I want to live in a school bus, or like I didn't actualize it till I was 30 years old. So like, yeah, dream come true. And people are like, oh my God, you live in your van. It's so romantic. That's so like, you could go anywhere. And I'm just like, I'm getting to the point where I'm so over it right now. I like hate it. And I'm just like, oh my God, I can't wait to like have a room somewhere or a house or just like somewhere where I don't have to like move all of my instruments off my bed to go to sleep. I can wash my dishes, like all these things. I can leave my stuff set up. Don't have to like always put everything away. So anywho, I've been getting super burnt out of it, and I feel that chapter of my life kind of coming to a close, but it has taught me so much. Like you said, so much about home and what is home. And I am in this deep love affair between two places that are very different and very far apart. And this is Western North Carolina, where I spent 10 or 11 years living, and the Olympic Peninsula here in Washington. I am so deeply in love with both places, and both places I have community. I have like really good friends and collaborators in both places. So it's been this really hard tension for me of like feeling like the van chapter closing in my life and like feeling like I want to settle, but I just can't for the life of me decide. Recently, I've been coming into a little bit more peace about it in that I realized, oh, you don't have to decide. In an ideal world, I'd go spend half the year there and half the year here, which seems crazy. And when I say that out loud, it sounds crazy. But I'm like, well, if I could make that, like, I have to make that work.
People do it with New England and Florida all the time, right?
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, it's a little further, North Carolina. Well, I don't know the exact mileage. But anywho, it seems crazy, and it is crazy. But at this point, I'm like so deeply in love and embedded with this place here, and also in North Carolina. So, okay. But yeah. Anyway, home is like, I think that we're, unless you're one of the lucky people who's comes from a lineage of people that has stayed on the same land for multiple, many generations, like hundreds of generations back, which is not most of us. It's hard to feel a sense of home, and it's hard to feel a sense of belonging, and that is belonging to place, not owning a place. Like, that's so different. Like, then like, yeah, you can buy land, but like, and think you own the land, but to belong, I think you need to belong to a place and belong to a land. And I feel so cut off from that as being, the descendant of all of my great-grandparents who immigrated to the United States through, or from Italy and Russia and Ukraine. And I know nothing about those places in the grand scheme. I'd love to go there. I'd love to, that's definitely like a vision of mine. I'd love to go on an ancestral journey. But in the meanwhile, here I am, and I'm just learning to try to cultivate a sense of place where I am. And for me, what that's looked like, especially here in the peninsula, has just been like spending as much time as I possibly can out in the wilderness. So I end up doing a lot of backpacking because there's a lot of places here on the peninsula that like you can drive around the peninsula, but the only way to get into the middle is to hike for several days. So it's amazing. I love it. I love going out there. And that's where I feel the most at home in a sense, because I'm just with the land. I don't know, but it's so much more than that too. I think community is really important, and being around people who can really see and be seen by. Yeah. And that's something I feel like beyond blessed to have here, just with my circle of friends. And so I think that that's a really big part of home that I feel like I have probably way more than a lot of people who live more isolated lives. Like I feel connected socially, and that gives me a huge sense of home and belonging. It's really like home is where the people you care about are ultimately, I think. And
there's a quote.
We'll
write that down.
Cool. Yeah, actually, that's a good. I hadn't realized that, but I think it's a combination of that and just where you connect with the land and the spirits of the land. Can be anywhere ultimately, but it's hard when you're a cultural orphan and cut off from your roots. Yeah. So it's like we're having to relearn and new practices of listening to and connecting with the land.
So I'm curious, when you're out in the land, do you sing?
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, definitely when I'm by myself, and I do a lot of solo hikes and solo backpacking because that's when I just feel the most. It's harder to tap into that space when I'm with other people. I love it when I can go on hikes with other people and like we can find that space together, like be alone together. Yes. Yes. Those are the best hiking buddies, where we come together and share meals or whatever, but like do our thing. And that's the pretty ideal thing for me. And yeah, I'd say most of my songs come in those contexts, or a lot of them.
So do you spend most of your time noodling around or noodle your way into a song and then refining a song on those walks? Or
definitely. Yeah, I wouldn't say most of the time of the walk isn't spent doing that. But if I am getting a little song idea, it's just good time for me to noodle with it and mess with it. What better time than walking down a trail?
So do you have any ideas for people who are listening and maybe don't think of themselves as songwriters? Mm-hmm. I notice that you're treating that, you have a little idea, you're noodling right, and then you're treating it with some respect. You're actually listening to what you just sang, treating it as an idea instead of saying, oh yeah, I'm not a songwriter,
which obviously you are a
that's a
songwriter, so
story.
you wouldn't say that to yourself, but
Right. But you'd be surprised the doubts that come up.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think anybody can write a song. And I've taught a lot of songwriting workshops before. And an activity that I love to start with, and this totally freaks people out, but it's great. It works every time. I'll just, before I even tell people what we're doing, I'll just be like, all right, get in a group of 2 or 3, and each person just think of a random word. Everybody thinks of a random word, and then they tell it to their partner or partners. And I'm like, okay, write a song of like 10-second song. Write a jingle that has those 3 words in it. And it could be something like plaid, applesauce, canary, or something. And it's hilarious. Like, the stuff that people come up with is mind-blowingly creative. And, a lot of people are like, I've never written a song before. And I'm like, well, you just did it. I didn't even give you any instructions. Like, it's that easy. And so I think a lot of it is about giving yourself permission to write shitty songs. Because I do it all the time. I write shitty songs all the time. And you have to write good ones. You just have to keep writing. And a lot of times I'm like scared because I'm like, oh no, like everything I write has to be profound and meaningful. And I've just been giving myself permission to write like silly, dumb stuff sometimes, if that's what I am coming up with. I'm like, that's great. That's fine. And then sometimes, ironically, people end up thinking that stuff is really good. And I'm like, oh my God. So yeah, I think the biggest thing is just give yourself permission to play and play around, because they don't call it playing music for no reason. It is just about being playful and giving yourself permission to like not have everything have to be good. It can be messy.
Nice.
It will be messy, and that's great, and that's part of being human. So
I remember a poetry teacher once saying to me, you write 50 poems for every good poem, so you may as well start and just write it and close it off, so that
absolutely.
you can get to the 50th.
Absolutely.
Just keep writing. And of course, by the time, I don't remember, the 14th or the 16th or something, the 28th, I was like, ooh, I like that poem,
Yep. That's how it
but
goes.
being able to just kind of let go, that not everyone has to be the poem or the
won't.
song.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
won't.
exactly.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. All right.
Yeah.
Are there any other questions I should ask you before we go into the lightning round?
Oh, no, that feels pretty complete.
Okay.
Yeah.
So lightning round. When I was getting ready to do this podcast, I listened to a bunch of podcasts, and
nice.
I love the ones that have quick answers, quick question and answers at the end that were always the same. And so then you get to hear how different people respond to them, and it was fun. So these are just 1 or 2 words, just as quick as you can off the top of your head. There are no wrong answers.
Okay. I'll try my best to be quick.
What's an album that was really important to you?
Well, I think, as I already mentioned, Rent, I kind of have to say is the number one. But I'd say other than that, like, it would probably be Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon.
Yes. All right.
Or some Yes album.
What is your favorite song?
I wish I had an answer to that, but I don't.
No, and you know what? That's not even the question. I didn't read it right.
Oh, great.
What is your favorite soup?
Oh, soup.
I wouldn't ask what's your favorite song. There's so many songs. That's such a ridiculous
There's so many
question.
soups, too.
There are so many soups.
Yeah, I don't know.
What is one of your favorite soups?
Probably like something with broccoli, cream of broccoli. No, chicken soup. That Thai chicken soup. Tom Kha Ga.
Oh, yeah.
That's by far my favorite. What am I talking
Tom
about?
Kha. Okay. What is your favorite replacement curse word, if you have one?
I'm sure I do. I don't know if I can think of one.
What do you say when you drop your guitar?
Friggin' like that.
And the mic's on.
Yeah.
and-
I don't know if I'm very good at filtering myself.
Okay.
This is the real thing. It usually comes
All
out.
right, excellent. Do you know what's funny is I stuck that question in, and so far, both of you have, you're my second interview, you've both said the real thing.
That's
No
so
filters.
funny. Yeah, I know. I could
That
probably,
may be just a thing for
probably
singers.
work on that.
No, maybe you don't need to, maybe that's just... What is a song you feel strongly about? A sound. Not a song, a sound you feel.
Like, you really want to know my favorite song.
I really do.
Not your favorite
birds.
sound necessarily, just one that
Yeah.
you feel strongly about. Doesn't have to be a favorite.
First thing that comes to me is bird song.
Any particular birds? Because there's a lot of bird song.
I love ravens. They're my favorite birds, and they have a lot of different calls, and
They have a wild.
they're really fun.
Yeah.
They always make me smile.
Who is an artist you wish more people listened to?
Ooh, that's a great question. I absolutely love. Yeah, she's become a dear friend of mine. We've played a handful of shows together. I just adore her and adore her music. Johanna Warren is an
great. I'll look
incredible
her up.
songwriter. Yeah.
You want to spell? Is it Johanna?
Johanna Warren, Waren.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, she's magnificently talented and inspiring to me. So
Fabulous. And before we close the interview, where can we find you and follow your projects or buy your music?
yeah, all the places really. I mean, everywhere where you listen to music, I'm there as Samara Jade. The best place to buy my albums or download them is Bandcamp. I do have physical CDs also that you can get through my website. It's a little bit more informal. It's more of an email Samara and tell her you want a CD and PayPal me, and then I'll send them to you eventually. I'm usually pretty quick about it. But the best way and my favorite way that I can be supported as an artist is through my Patreon. And I have a lot of fun with that. I post a lot of things there that I don't share otherwise on social media and stuff. Especially all of my sing-along songs. I've been slowly chipping away at recording a compilation of all of them. So like the one you hear today, and I've been slowly recording them, and they're unreleased to the public and probably won't be released for a while, but I've been posting them all one by one there with my Patreons. So that's a fantastic way that folks can support me through subscribing to that and gain access to the things that I post there. But also Instagram, Facebook. I go in and out of phases of posting a lot and then posting nothing for months at a time and then posting every day, and I'm kind of sporadic with social media, which is apparently not the right thing to do, but that's just me.
So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for coming today.
Yeah.
And a huge thank you to you, our listeners. I'm so glad you're singing with us. Let me remind you quickly that subscribing, reviewing, and sharing the link really makes a difference, helping people we don't even know yet find these songs and these people. Visit abreathofsong.com to see the show notes with lyrics, sign up to know when the next episode is released, suggest a song or songwriter for the podcast, and leave something in the tip jar to help cover costs. Before I get paid, 25% will be donated to the Jazz Foundation of America, and I talk a bit about why that is in the intro episode. So let's sing I Trust My Roots again to help our brains remember it, because going away and then coming back is a really effective learning skill. And of course you can always download the episode and listen as many times as you'd like.
Oh, thank you so much, Patricia, for having me on and just asking really thoughtful questions. I appreciate you doing this and putting this together, and honored that you asked me to be a part of it. So super tickled.
Yay.
Shall I sing the whole song or a few of the verses?
As much as you feel like.
Okay.
Give us at minimum, I would say a minimum of 3 choruses worth.
Great.
I'm just sticking that in there.
I trust my roots to know where to go, to know where to go, to know where to go. I trust my roots to know where to go, down, down into the earth, going down, down into the earth, intertwining with all beings. I'm seeing in every direction, going down, down into the earth. I'll send a message on the World Wide Web of interconnection, because I trust my roots to share what I got, to share what I got, to share what I got. I trust my roots to share what I got, down, down into the earth, going down, down into the earth, intertwining with all beings. I'm seeing in every direction, going down, down into the earth. I'll send a message on the World Wide Web of interconnection. Oh, 'cause I trust my roots to connect us as one. Connect us as one. Connect us as one. I trust my roots to connect us as one. Going down, down into the earth. Going down, down into the earth. Intertwining with all beings, I'm seeing in every direction. Going down, down into the earth. I'll send a message on the World Wide Web of interconnection. You know I'm gonna trust my roots.
Thank you. Thank you for joining Samara and me today for A Breath of Song. I'm grateful that you're taking care of yourself and listening to your voice. I believe making a better world starts with tuning in to ourselves and each other and our bacteria, which is what we just did. So yay us. Next time we'll plant another song. Be well.